Hello, everyone. Welcome to Community Talk number 5. Today we have a packed agenda. We give you plenty of community updates, especially from Lisbon, where we've been attending a ton of events. But we are going to kick it off today with a grand team. So we're going to do the community updates later today. We have Rafael and Filippo with us from simplefi, who are going to demo their grant for us. So Rafael, go ahead and take it away.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? I'm Rafael. Filippo is here as well from simplefi. So just before I do the demo, just to explain a little bit what we're doing. simplefi is a DeFi analytics platform, and our aim is to make DeFi more accessible to everybody. And so that's several things. There are different things that we're working on, but the very first product that we've put out, in large part thanks to not just the grant from the graph, but also the technical support, is an ROI calculator, like an ROI dashboard. And the pain point that we're trying to solve with that is basically we're a bunch of degens, and we've been involved in DeFi since DeFi summer. And the problem that we have consistently is just figuring out whether we're making any money or not. Because often you jump into a pool, into a farm or something that's at 1,000% APY, and then you look back a week later and it's still 1,000% APY, but somehow you've lost 90% of your money just because the token price has collapsed or whatever. So we wanted to make it easy. Instead of, I don't know how many people here like sort of farm and try to keep track of things manually, but it's really, really difficult to do it from a spreadsheet. So we wanted a generalized version for that, and make it easy for people by just plugging in their address and having it rewind everything so they can see what's going on. And obviously I'll do the demo first, and then I'll tell you how it's actually built on the graph. So if I can just share my screen here. There we go. Can you all see that?
Yep, we're seeing it.
Great. Can I just hide video panel? There we go. All right, so this is simplefi.finance. All you need, we're in closed beta right now. So if you go to our Discord, which is here at the bottom, you can just go to the join waitlist channel, type /waitlist, and you'll be on the waitlist. And if you DM me and ask me really nicely, maybe I can give you an access code. But basically you just launch the app, and then here you either connect your wallet with MetaMask or various other ways, or you just plug in an address. And here's one we prepared earlier because sometimes it can take a little bit of time to get the data. But what you'll land on is a page like this. So you have a summary page, which gives you your personal TVL. So that's the double counting TVL, right? So for example, if you've put $26,000 in a liquidity pool, and then you've taken the LP token and farmed that, you've put in 26,000, and the LP token by definition is also worth 26,000. So you now have a TVL of about 52,000, in this case 45, so it's not fully invested, only 92% invested, if you see. And so, but it also, so it gives you your TVL, which is with the double counting, and it will give you your total holdings, which is without the double counting. So this total holdings thing here is if you were to completely unwind all your positions, take all your money out, this is what you'd actually end up with. And then it gives you an indication of at what percentage of these total holdings have actually been invested. So it also takes into account tokens that are loose in your wallet. And then what you have is that you have this really interesting historical graph of how your TVL and your profit and loss has evolved over time. So we actually take, you can vary the time period if you want. You can do things over the last month, over the last week, or over the past 12 months. And then what it gives you is the amount of profit and loss that you've made over time. And then you have an overview for this time period, so over the last 12 months, of what your ROI has been. The thing is, as you know, calculating the ROI can be a little bit little bit tricky. So because sometimes you want to take into account impermanent loss, or you don't. But so in this case, we have 3 ways of calculating it. The first way is what we call dollar relative. So that's if you had just so it's your returns compared to just having held on to the dollars. So if you'd never invested and just kept your dollars, this is your ROI. You'd be up 450, or this account would be up 450%, right? And then it breaks it down for the liquidity pool and for the farming ROI as well, and takes into account gas fees. But maybe you want to look at relative to just holding ETH. You just do that. And here you see already you're doing a lot less well, right? So you'd be losing 50% of your money compared to just holding on to ETH. And then the last one is, we call it base assets relative. It's not very elegant, but it means including impermanent loss. So actually, in permanent loss, you're still doing worse than if you're just calculating against your dollars, but you're still up compared to just holding the base assets of whatever you put in the liquidity pools. And then you have a breakdown here by period of your farming rewards, your liquidity pool, profits or loss, and your gas fees. And then going back, then you can have the holdings view. So the holdings view will take you to a page where it actually will show all of the assets that you own. And this is like this, when I say that it rewinds stuff, this is exactly what we mean. It rewinds, it looks at what base assets you have in the liquidity pools and tells you, how much meta you have and how much of it is actually invested. So 73% of this meta is invested. If you've ever wondered, where your meta is, where you can see the value of your meta over time, and you can see where it is. So here, there's part of it is in the MetaWeth Uniswap V2 pool. Part of it is is unclaimed in a farm, right? These are rewards that haven't been claimed yet. Then if you go to the liquidity pools, it's kind of the same thing. You have your TVL in the liquidity pools, your ROI, which will also change according to whatever method you've put in, how it's evolved over time, and then you have a list of different liquidity pools that you've invested in. So if we look at LinkWeth, then it'll give you the breakdown, how that's evolved over time, what the current APY is. And what's important to realize is that here it'll tell you the ROI that you've made, even if you've staked the LP token in a farm, right? So it will actually unwind that, look at the underlying liquidity pool, and look at if you'd never farmed it, this would be your ROI. So the farming, this is still in closed beta, as I said. So there's a few things that we're working on, like smoothing these graphs for farming, etc. But here in farming, so this is the pure farming ROI, how much you're up, and that's the overview. And then you can click on these different farms and see how well you're doing, right? And one thing that I forgot to tell you about is that if you find the liquidity pool that's been invested or staked, so for example, this Sushi Swap UniWeth pool has been 100% staked in a farm. So if you look at that, then you'll have the pool ROI, but you'll also have the additional ROI that you've made from farming, right? So it will calculate both. And so if you've ever wondered if your impermanent loss is being compensated by your farming rewards, then now you know, basically. So that's for the quick demo. We invite you to come and try it out. But more importantly, we've built this in a very open infrastructure. And the way that we do it is that anybody can create a subgraph for their protocol and be integrated into simplefi. So you don't need to wait on us. If you've got a DeFi protocol and you want to build a subgraph for it to be integrated, you can. We're actually asking for as many people as possible to come and do that so that we can scale this up quickly and provide a lot of value to DeFi users. All of our code is on simplefi subgraphs, which is open source. We've got some great documentation as well at docs.simplefi.finance. So you'll see here, we've got like some walkthroughs of how we did the Sushi Swap subgraph, how we did the Sushi Swap farms, and just some general documentation on how everything works. And just to finish maybe, so basically this is the full architecture, but I'll skip that for the interest of time. What I wanted to show you is just from our presentation at LizCon. Currently, we're only on ETH mainnet, but we've started deploying subgraphs on Polygon as well. So you'll soon have your Polygon farms. We track 95,000 tokens already. So that's including composite tokens, what we call composite tokens. So LP tokens, right? That aren't just base tokens. Those are priced. We've got 30 million price points, historical price points, and we've got 60 million subgraph entities. So as you can imagine, if you want to find your ROI or calculate your ROI on a complex position, we have to look back in time what the price was of your investment in the liquidity pool, what the state of the reserves was, to try to figure out how much of each token you had, so that we can render everything into those nice line graphs. And for now, we're looking at about 60 million subgraph entities, which is huge, and 55,000 DeFi markets on just six markets for the time being. So we've got UniV2, SushiSwap with the farms, Curve, Staked Out, MStable, and we've got like a load of them that are coming up. Rari is building their subgraph on us. Balancer is coming. Aave is coming. Like a lot of these protocols are coming. So yeah, there we go.
Pretty cool. Thanks, Raphael.
No worries.
Thank you. Questions, anyone? That was quite impressive there, Raphael.
Thank you. I can see how to.
So this is the total application in beta now, or is it fully released? Do you have just a few things to clean up? Can you give us a little bit of context?
Yeah. There's quite a bit that we're working on. So as you saw, some of the graph are a little bit suboptimal there. There's pardon my French, but a shit ton of calculations in each one of those pages. So we're optimizing things on the back end. I'm just looking at Filippo's face because he's the one who's working on that. It's like a lot of sleepless nights.
The one struggling.
Yeah, he's the one struggling. And we're just actively looking for feedback. So we've been really big on user feedback from the beginning. People telling us if the calcs actually add up. People telling us, which farms they want to put in, which protocols they want to integrate next. So we expect that, over the course of the next few months, it's going to get better. We also have our optimizer that's coming into play. So the thing about simplefi is it's not just an ROI dashboard. The whole flow of what we want to achieve is that you can go onto simplefi, see how much money your investments are making, which ones are performing, are underperforming, and then actually get suggestions on how to optimize your portfolio. And because we've got this humongous amount of data on all of this, we can tell you where the APYs are higher, and all the rest. So we're going to be working on that pretty heavily over the coming months as well.
Awesome. Well, there's tremendous excitement here in the chat, about it. So really well done, and we're very excited to see what's coming next. So we're gonna bring you back in, I'm sure, some point down the road. And I appreciate you coming. You've joined us here on short notice, and I know you have a hard stop at 10:15, so I'm gonna let you go.
Thank you so much
for joining us.
If you have any additional questions, please join our Discord on the website, simplefi.finance, and join there, and post any questions you want, and try out the beta. We'd love it. And if you want to get involved in subgraph development, please let us know as well, because we're here to help.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Raphael. Amazing.
Okay, so we pushed this to the front of the agenda since Raphael had to leave at 10:15, and it was definitely worth doing that. So we're now going with our regular scheduled agenda here. We start with our community update. We're going to talk a little bit about Lisbon and the events that we've had there. We're going then into sort of a segue into some of the recent announcements that we have around chain integrations. We're going to have core devs joining us for the discussions here. We're going to talk a little bit about governance as well. And then, we've done now simplefi, so that'll be the rest of the agenda. We're going to start off with our community updates from Lisbon. Pedro is going to start off talking about Lisbon and ETH Lisbon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Oliver. Yeah, so we've had a couple of very busy weeks. As Oliver mentioned, we did start with LisCon. In Lisbon, there was a lot of events. I'll be talking about LisCon and ETH Lisbon, the hackathon. So LisCon, we've had a great talk. Yaniv did a main stage talk on Web3. I believe we can share the YouTube link here as well for folks to watch it now. We've had also a DT from Ageno talking about Web3 education, announcing also our Free Code Camp collaboration. I believe we may talk more about it in a couple of minutes. And overall, it was pretty cool to see all of these folks coming to Lisbon. Being Portuguese, I was pretty happy about it, seeing all of these builders here. The energy was amazing. Lots of folks coming onto our booth for sure. We've actually met simplefi there for the first time. Nice team, full of energy as well. And yeah, that was a fun conference. Then we've had during one weekend, the Graph has sponsored a hackathon called ETH Lisbon. Simone, also from Ageno, did a nice workshop on Web3 development using the Graph. We've had a total of 260 participants. And 15 of these teams have built their new project using the Graph. And so we've had 3 different awards for different bounties on best new subgraph and also best use of existing subgraphs. And so I can link here the winners, but I'll just name them. We've had Rentable, we've had DAO Framework, Engager NFT, Eligible, and Trading Strategy. So I will be linking their work on the chat as well, so you guys can check it out. And yeah, huge shout out to all hackers, obviously building with the Graph. We've had 16 as mentioned. That's about 25% of all participants have used the Graph to build their new project, which is nice. And yeah, that was great.
Awesome. And then after that, we had the Web Summit, and Reem covered us there pretty much full time.
Yeah. So hi everyone, nice to see you again this month. Like Pedro said, and I think the sentiment has been clear, we pretty much lived in Lisbon last month. So with a lot of really exciting crypto conferences, something that I think we as a community in Web3 need to emphasize on is how do we not only converse with each other, but converse with others that are very curious and maybe somewhat intimidated by what we're doing and the future of the internet. So it was really refreshing to educate and inform a lot of people what the Graph does and how it powers Web3. And trust me when I say I wasn't just standing there discussing, how the Graph is very resourceful and useful, because I think I speak for a lot of us that have, first kind of dabbled into the Graph and tried to conceptualize what it means. It was a little hard to understand. So it was really helpful to tap into other Web3 projects in this space to really conceptualize why the Graph is so important in building anything in Web3. So we got to chat with students. We got to chat with Portuguese government officials that are working in banking. We also got a lot to chat with a lot of folks that are familiar with the Graph logo and the Graph icon. I found a lot of folks kind of opening up their phone, either on Coinbase or Binance. And they're like, is this you guys? And we're like, well, actually, it's not just us. And the biggest question we got all the time is, well, where is your company located? Or, where can I get a job? And the biggest thing to emphasize here is that we are not a company. We are a global protocol, and it is contributions that are pieces that are being built together from all across the globe. So we had Simone do a subgraph development workshop. It was a full packed room on the last day of the summit. So there was definitely a lot of excitement there. A lot of folks that were also unaware that, GraphQL, a language that's used in Web 2, is something that can be used in Web 3. And I think, the more we hang out at these conferences, the better, because again, we want to make sure that those that are kind of curious and want to learn a bit more about how to get involved, beyond the DeFi side of things, but really what powers the technology, I think is, this is how you can open it up to those that want to learn a bit more and may feel a little scared to ask you those questions. So it was nice. Also, we got to see a Wave 3 grantee, Tiago. So that was really nice to see there. Web Summit typically sees anywhere between 40 to 60,000 attendees. This was the first one back since the pandemic began. And they also do other events like Collision, which will be hosted in Toronto next year in June. So yeah, maybe we'll do something there. And if any of you folks are in Canada, would love to say hello to you as well.
Awesome. So while I have you on the line here, Reem, so we also have seen swag being released here over the last few weeks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was no surprise that we also had a lot of popularity at the booth thanks to swag, but also I think a lot of us, it's no secret that a lot of folks across the web that have been contributors to the graph or even early on testnet users received some swag. This doesn't mean that no one else will receive swag or that is our only stint. Keep an eye out. There's definitely going to be more opportunities for the community to grab their hands on either some socks, shirts, stickers. I don't know if you even have some ideas of some swag, I'm sure we'd love to hear it. But yeah, it's definitely been no surprise. But if you ever see us at any conferences or any booths, so just make sure you say hello. I'm sure we'll have something to hand out. But we're also hoping to do some more online community initiatives where we can get everybody's hands on some swag.
Yeah. Awesome. Very good. So that covers the Lisbon events, and we're going to be talking more about Lisbon later on when we talk about the integration announcements. Next up, we have the Graph Academy, but Stefan had to drop. So I'm going to cover for Stefan here very quickly. He wanted to share an update with you, something to keep your eyes out for over the coming weeks. Is an announcement from the Graph Academy that there will be mini grants available. So what we will be launching there is a concept where you can get incentivized for contributing content. And that happens both in an RFP type of fashion where we have predefined topics that we would like to have content for. But you will also have the opportunity to suggest content yourself and the opportunity for that to receive a mini grant as well, so that we can continue to expand our educational material that we have on the Graph Academy. So more to come on that. Keep your eyes out for that one. Then we have this week scheduled, I think it is the second Curator Catalyst call. Orion, slim chance.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. Yeah, so we have bi-weekly calls with a focus on improving the curation experience, where we go through RFPs, GIPs, upcoming changes. This week, we will have GraphGuard coming on to talk about the Curation Station website that he's working on and the future of that. So please join. You can find the event in the Graph calendar, and I can also send a link in the chat to a Discord group that we use to organize the event. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome, very good. Okay, so that gets us to our big segment. We have with us today Adam from Edge and Node, Matthew from StreamingFast, and Joseph from Figment. And they are going to be talking to us a little bit more about the recent chain announcements that we've had with Near, Cosmos, and Solana. Hello, you three.
Hey. Hi there, everyone.
Everybody there, very good. So let's start with Near. Adam, why don't you talk a little bit about that integration? Give us a bit more background on where we are with that integration, and maybe tell us a little bit about some of the features of the blockchain, what stands out with Near, and maybe also tell us about your favorite app on the Near protocol.
It's quite a few things. Yes. So I guess I'll kick off with the broader context, which is that sort of bringing multiple blockchains, and by that we kind of mean extending beyond the EVM. So the graph node obviously supports EVM chains through sort of RPC indexing and has done since the start, and that obviously includes like a Ethereum mainnet, but then lots and lots of other chains which have been added in terms of support on the hosted service over the past sort of 6 to 12 months. And so this is the sort of the next chapter, which is starting to index other types of blockchains. And so I think this was announced earlier this year. The chains that we're focusing on, and Near was the first, has been the first one which we've sort of fully integrated. And I guess it was sort of a game of two halves, because the first was sort of the under the hood type work in terms of getting GraphNode ready, doing a bunch of refactoring in terms of its internals, how things are modeled within GraphNode to make it more sort of blockchain agnostic. So removing a bunch of the Ethereum assumptions in the code base. And then I guess then there's the sort of juicy bit of starting to integrate Near, and that was something which was really a collaborative effort. So we started really doing that work in earnest when StreamingFast came on board, and it was really a collaborative effort. So Matt, who's I think going to talk a bit about Solana, was actually a real part of the driving force, and the rest of the StreamingFast team in terms of powering that integration, because essentially the integration runs off a Firehose. So I think that's been covered maybe in these talks before, but it's an especially performant way of extracting data from a chain sort of client, and so there's a special Firehose instrumentation for Near, which then sort of plugs into GraphNode, and so there are a bunch of pieces. There was the creation of the Firehose on the one side, the integration within GraphNode, which, as I said, was a sort of real collaborative effort between the core dev teams. That was really exciting as we sort of have grown the ecosystem over the last sort of 6 to 12 months as well. And so, yeah, so now Near is supported within the latest sort of master on GraphNode, or has been for a little while. But yeah, I don't think we actually don't have a full Near release. That's going to be hopefully coming in the next weeks or months in terms of the GraphNode software itself. But it's supported on the hosted service. We've still got some polishing that we want to do in terms of the user experience, but Near dApp developers can build subgraphs, sort of indexing blocks or receipts, which are essentially things that happen on the Near blockchain, to power their dApps. In terms of some things about Near, so I think coming from Ethereum, a lot of the mental model is quite similar. It's sort of account based, got some obviously different things. It's got sharding sort of built in already, even though it's not sort of fully active yet, but sharding is going to be part of Near's sort of scaling story, and they've sort of baked that in sort of earlier than Ethereum has. Obviously Ethereum's still sort of working on that. You've got some quite interesting things in terms of cross-block transactions and transactions not being atomic, but actually being able to sort of execute cross-block boundaries, which are maybe slightly mind-warpy things. But in many ways, they're actually sort of very similar in terms of the execution account model, building smart contracts, like those kind of things. From our perspective, like the graph, Near smart contracts are written in Rust and graph nodes are written in Rust, or they're in assembly script, and obviously subgraph mappings are written in assembly script. So there's some quite nice sort of at least language choice alignment things there. But yeah, in terms of Near itself, so it was really cool to announce it at NearCon, which was also in Lisbon for a couple of days, to meet a bunch of the apps there. There were quite a few people who'd built Ethereum subgraphs who'd moved to Near. So I think Mint-Base is a really good example, who are a sort of a general purpose sort of NFT platform, and they're really interesting, like if you want to check them out. But yeah, it was really great to meet them. And then there are a bunch of sort of DeFi type apps there as well. So I think Ref Finance is one. So yeah, so I guess that's Near, and I'll stop there.
Awesome. If anyone has any questions for any of the core devs around Near, Cosmos, or Solana, feel free to ask them in the chat. Thank you, Adam. Great overview for that. Let's move on to Cosmos, and we have Joseph with us, who actually made, I think, the announcement in Lisbon as well.
Hey, Oliver. Hey, everyone. Yes, I made the announcement, and I think maybe I could show like a later small clip of that. But first, so what is Cosmos and why is Cosmos interesting? So when we say that the graph is going to be integrating the Cosmos ecosystem, that doesn't mean just the Cosmos blockchain, which is called the Cosmos Hub. It's not all, but like major blockchains in the Cosmos ecosystem. So the Cosmos ecosystem is built from different blockchains. The idea of the Cosmos ecosystem is to solve the scalability and like lower transaction fees. So by doing that, instead of having one blockchain where all the applications is built on top of this one blockchains, which is going to increase the number of transactions, their idea was to create an application-specific blockchain. So each dApp or application that they want to build in this ecosystem, they will build first their own blockchain, and they will build their application on top of their blockchains. So let's say you want to build a DAX. Instead of building the DAX directly on one blockchain, you would build your blockchain and build your DAX on top of it. And then all these blockchains could communicate together and could leverage each other solutions. So that's kind of the Cosmos ecosystem. And so we're going to be integrating several Cosmos ecosystem blockchains one by one, depending on what is the most beneficial for the graph. One of my favorite applications right now, blockchains happening in the Cosmos ecosystem, is Osmosis. So Osmosis is like the first big DEX on the Cosmos ecosystem. They are solving a lot of problems, and they are trying to connect like all these blockchains by the Kepler wallet at the same time. And so I think the Cosmos ecosystem is starting to growing, and the community is big and growing, and this is good time for us. And back at the announcement, maybe I could share my screen.
Yeah. Got a little video clip to share?
Yeah. But first, oh yeah, share my screen. Okay. So that was when we were announcing. You could see the reaction of the people, and give it to all the people the space and like make the life easier. And so today I'm very proud to announce that the graph is coming to Cosmos. We are gonna make it. Yeah, so stop sharing up.
So how big was the Cosmos event, the announcement there?
It was big. There was around, I think, 500 attendees. And then directly after the announcement, a lot of builders in the Cosmos ecosystem started coming to us and talking to us. And what's really like good and, you know, make us proud to be in this project is everyone wants the graph. Everyone needs a solution like the graph. And so after the announcements, builders were coming towards us and saying, when are you going to integrate our blockchain? We need something like the graph. We want something like the graph. And so this show us that we are on the right track and hopeful about the future. And yeah, it made us all very happy there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joseph. Great stuff. Okay, that gets us to Solana, and we have Matthew here from StreamingFast. How are you, Matthew?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Oliver?
Doing good.
Great. So we just to mention it really rapidly is that this is the start of the integration, so it's not integrated yet. Just to clear that up. About Solana is a high throughput chain, maybe the highest currently that is actually used in the community. They claim that they can reach Visa scale, so around 100 TPS. Right now they are around, I think, kind of 3,000 or 4,000 TPS. So you can imagine that it's a really fast chain. Low fees. Right now the fees are really low, especially if you compare to Ethereum mainnet, right, which is crazy at that point. So even with that scale, and they claim that they can even go faster than that, like running on GPUs and everything. So oh, thanks Josh for the 60,000, not 600. So yeah, so it's mostly the key point of Solana. Like they are trying to be the blockchain, like beating Ethereum mainnet, and they're working hard on that. So we'll see where it goes. After that, what is the next question already? Is it
tell us about one of your favorite apps?
Yeah, the app. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So the D app right now, one that is really known is the Serum DEX, which is a DEX on Solana, working at speed of centralized exchange, like the closing of trades and everything. It goes really fast. So that's I think one of the most known DApp right now on Solana. There's a lot of NFT project launching, like 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 per days right now. So there's a big thing going on with NFTs and the Solana chain. One of the DApp I use in the past is what they call the wormhole, which is a bridge between Ethereum mainnet and Solana. I used it to transfer some token from mainnet to Solana, and it worked quite well. In fact, it was impressive about the integration, the wallet. Like it was a pretty good experience. So
Nice.
those are the main DApps that I know of in Solana. There's plenty of others, of course. A part of that, so the challenge of the integration, what is going to be a big challenge is just keeping the node in sync. That's a challenge in itself. We had a good call with the Figment team Friday about tips and tricks about how we could maybe more easily sync the network. So we'll see how it goes. The amount of TPS is also quite of a challenge. Of course, just for the data acquisition, it's a challenge, but also it will be a good challenge for the graph node itself. The amount of pass block is also something and going really rapidly right now. I think they are at what, 130 million, something like that, blocks. So that will pose a good challenge. And the amount of data, the data that is going out and in of accounts in the chain is crazy. And we'll see how we can actually have that access to that, make it easily. And the last thing would be historical access. Historical access has been a pain point on Solana from mostly the beginning. So getting a hand on the historical block, it's not an easy endeavor, and we'll need to use all our tricks to actually get that back to the graph users. So
Very good. And so the Solana event was in fact the last event last week in Lisbon, right? And I know that Alex made the announcement at Solana, but I think you were there as well. Can you share us your impressions of the announcement?
So I was not there physically because I was already back to Montreal. Alex is the one that actually announced that remote, and from what I saw in the video, there was like 200 or 300 person in the room, and there was a lot of shouting and everything. People were really happy about that because having an indexing solution for Solana is something that is more than crucial. Like if you use some of the apps right now, you'll see that historical thing is mostly not available, so it's something that is clearly lacking at the moment. It was received really pretty good. I mean, there was some even gossip even before the announcement that we were about to announce something, and people were already kind of speculating about what it was going to be. So it was kind of a really good reception from the community about that. And we already were talking with Serum in the past about kind of having indexing solution for them. So they are really into it, and will be happy to help the graph community at large to actually get the graph into Solana. So a great partnership to come in the future.
Excellent. Yeah, and just again for context, the announcement really signals the commitment for integration. It's not finalized at this point, and there is still work to be done to fully integrate here. Exactly.
So we already have had our Firehose version working Solana in the past, like 3 months or 2 months ago. We had a Firehose version before we actually joined the graph, and now our work is to actually resume that, make it work again, sync back with the network, generate blocks, and then integrate that in the graph. So our goal would be kind of something in Q1 next year. We'll see where in Q1. Is it at the start, middle, end? We'll see. It depends on the challenges and how we can solve them efficiently. So like you mentioned, Oliver, it's the start of the journey and only the beginning.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much for the update here, Matthew. And again, if anyone has any questions on anything that we've shared so far, please share it in the chat. So that gets us to our final segment, which I will lead, that is governance. So there's a couple of things here I would love to share with you. Most importantly, let's start off with that. I'm going to share my screen here. It's this one. Very good. Okay. You have likely seen, if you are traveling the forums, a little bit of a reorg of the categories and subcategories. You know, the goal was here to simplify the structure so it's more easy for everyone to navigate and find posts that you want to engage in. And along with that, we have also posted the graph protocol governance process. This is really an add-on to a blog post that Brandon has shared with us earlier this year. And it just provides, you know, hopefully a little bit more clarity on how governance proposals go from really the initial creation to all the way to implementation. Part of the reason that we have posted this, it's twofold. On the one side, we frequently do get questions on how does the governance process work, and I hope that this post here will provide more clarity for everyone. But what we also have, you've just heard all the announcements, and you know that we have more than just one core dev at this point in our community. There is going to be more, you know, alignment amongst the core devs as they work on proposals such as the near integration, where they will use the GIP process as a framework to structure their work. And those may be GIPs that do not follow the governance process, where the GIP process is essentially just helpful to stay aligned and to stay in structure and to stay documentation focused. So what you have now in the forum is a tag, which is called protocol gov. When you see that tag, then that is a GIP that follows this process. For example, reduction of the curation tax from 2.5% to 1%, which was implemented a while ago, is a GIP that has followed the governance process. And that is something that touches the protocol itself, meaning the smart contracts, and therefore we have a rigor around it, where we have technical reviews, where we have audits, and then eventually going to the council for review and approval. Things like the near integration does not directly touch the protocol itself and does not go through this process. This is something that the core devs implement, you know, outside of that. And since we are going to see more GIPs entering the forum from the core dev side, we want to make sure that people understand this is one that goes through the governance process, but this is one that does not, even though they use the same structure for the documentation, which is the GIP process. If there are any questions on that, feel free to ask them. Want to make sure that this is something that everybody is sort of getting a chance to digest. You can find this post in the forum and you can read through it. There's more commentary on it, along with an FAQ that explains this in more detail. Then we have a couple
Oliver,
of
maybe we can just add, sorry, Oliver, maybe we can just add that you mentioned the proposals coming from core devs. So we understand that at the moment there's not a lot of visibility over this process as well. So we're sharing things on the forum, but we're hoping to come up with a better way of keeping track of all of this, so that the community is aware of what core devs are actually working on and engage and better comment on things. And so, yeah, we'll be sharing some news, hopefully very, very soon.
Yeah, and also we have the core dev calls as well, where we talk more about what core dev teams are working on as well. So anyone interested in that can always join the monthly calls there too. Very good. Couple of GIPs that we have. They've been posted a while ago, GIP 18 and GIP 19. This is an opportunity, last call, so to say, they've been posted a while back, for you to chime in and express your opinion on it. We have on both received positive support, and are expecting to see this going through the governance process, meaning to the council as soon as we have the audits completed for the subgraph ownership transfer, as well as saving gas when initializing a subgraph deployment. So these are two that at this point, we don't expect to go through community voting because it was unanimously positive. It would be somewhat redundant given the feedback that we've received. It's also two proposals that have no apparent downside. It's really just an upside on something that has been requested by the community in the past. But if there's anything you see of concern, feel free to raise it in the forum post. But as soon as we have the audits done and we continue to receive positive feedback, it will go then to the council for review and approval. Okay. So this is the end of the agenda, and we have some time for questions. Do we have any questions that we haven't covered yet? I don't see any. Pedro, do you see anything? I think this is it then. Very good. So we're 10 minutes early today. If there are no further questions, then give everyone 10 minutes back. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank you.